Elisabeth was once a famous star. With her incredible figure and delicate face, she had millions of fans. But now, she was over 50, and her charm had faded. She could no longer land big roles, only fitness commercials. Meanwhile, her company was training younger talents to replace her. On her way home after shooting a commercial, Elisabeth felt lost and depressed. That's when she came across something unusual. Suddenly, she was involved in an accident and was immediately taken to the hospital, where she received treatment. Before being discharged, someone gave her a device. A voice said, "This will change your life." She examined the device more closely. It had an inscription, "Unlock your DNA." The instructions claimed it could trigger new cell division, granting her a perfect body. But Elisabeth didn't believe in such things and tossed it in the trash. That night, she sat alone in a bar, drowning in frustration. She had lost everything: the fame, the admiration, the opportunities. She gritted her teeth and thought about how unfair it was. Then, remembering the device, she retrieved it and contacted the manufacturer. The next day, Elisabeth saw an advertisement from the same company that had given her the device. It was a casting call for their next big superstar. The only requirement? Age 18 to 30. This fueled her determination even more. She found the device and decided to give it a try. Inside the package, she discovered a white card labeled 503. Following the instructions, she arrived at a remote corridor. Her heart pounded as she walked in. At the end of the hall was a white, empty room with a cabinet labeled 503. Inside, there were 3 compartments. The activation system, for transformation. The stabilizer, for maintaining the new form. The exchange device, for transferring between bodies. Elisabeth hesitated for a moment, then stripped down and swallowed the small pill from the first compartment. A strong gust of wind rushed through the room. She fell to the ground, and suddenly, something started shifting inside her body. Her back split open, her pupils dilated, and then, a brand new version of herself emerged. This new body was young, flawless, and full of life. Both versions of her shared the same memories but had separate consciousnesses. Elisabeth took a deep breath, then picked up the stabilizer and injected it into her new body. She also started using the nutrient supply. Each small dose lasted 1 day. For the next week, Elisabeth, now going by Sue, lived the life she had once lost. She went back to her company and auditioned for the show. Her stunning appearance and talent made her the instant favorite. The director was amazed and decided to build an entire show around her. Sue was thrilled. She knew she only had 7 days before she needed to switch back. So, she made a request to her boss. "I need to visit my sick mother for a few days." Touched by her apparent filial love, he agreed. Time passed, and the nutrient supply began running low. When the first cycle ended, Sue took out the exchange device, connected it to her hand, and linked it to her original body. A sharp shock ran through her. But soon, the 2 versions of herself had switched again. Elisabeth, now back in her older form, returned to the company, only to find her murals erased and her personal belongings packed up. She had been fired. Devastated, she went home and recorded everything in her diary. Days later, her meal card arrived, signaling it was time for another transformation. She locked herself in her room, waiting for the chance to return to the top. But as time passed, she noticed something strange. Sue had begun to develop her own consciousness, refusing to switch back. Sue erased all evidence of Elisabeth's existence. She removed old photos, replaced them with her own, and embraced her new identity. She relished being the center of attention, dressing in luxurious outfits and seducing powerful men. One night, she brought home a handsome young man. Just as things were heating up, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. Her body trembled. The nutrients had run out. She rushed to the bathroom, gripping the stabilizer. Tonight was the exchange night. But for the first time, she hesitated. Looking in the mirror, she saw her perfect face and youthful beauty. She didn't want to give it up. Ignoring the rules, she injected the stabilizer into herself instead of completing the exchange. Instantly, her body felt stronger, more radiant. When she returned to the bedroom, the man was mesmerized by her even more than before. The next morning, something was wrong. Sue's fingers started to decay. She rushed to wash it off, but the skin had turned gray, resembling a corpse. Panicked, she contacted the factory. "Is there a way to fix this?" she pleaded. The cold response came. "Once the balance is broken, there's no going back." Enraged, she threw the communicator against the wall. She stormed out of the house, only to see Elisabeth's old face flashing across a TV screen. A wave of jealousy surged inside her. Meanwhile, Elisabeth had received another meal card. She knew she had to act fast. She rushed to the facility, desperate to retrieve more nutrients. But as she grabbed the medicine, a strange noise came from behind her. Sue was there, glaring at her with cold, hollow eyes. Elisabeth ran. She darted into a restaurant, ordering a cup of coffee, trying to calm her nerves. But deep down she knew, this wasn't over. The old man greeted Elisabeth. At this moment, his wallet accidentally fell to the ground. A white card slipped out along with it. Elisabeth noticed that the man had a scar, similar to one she had seen before. Then she suddenly realized, this was the same man who had given her a USB stick before. Fear struck her and she ran out. The man was in pain, and she feared that she too would end up lonely like him. "You're still the most beautiful girl in the whole world." Her classmate's compliment felt like a shining star, illuminating her lonely soul. She held her phone, hesitating before calling to confirm her plans. She and her friend agreed to meet at a romantic Western restaurant. When Elisabeth arrived, she wore a sexy, loose-fitting dress and had carefully applied her makeup. But when she saw Sue at the restaurant, a wave of envy and insecurity filled her heart. She walked to the mirror to fix herself. "I always feel like something is missing," she whispered, applying a little more lipstick. On her way out, she noticed an advertisement card. It made her suddenly feel that her makeup wasn't good enough. She ran back and grabbed a silk scarf to enhance her look. But just as she was about to open the door, she caught her reflection again. Compared to Sue, she looked aged. She ruined her confidence. She always felt like she wasn't even on the same level as Sue. Frustrated, she wiped everything off and kept sending short messages on her phone, venting her emotions. But she didn't see the silence and judgment hidden in the responses. She started feeling worse. Then she made a choice, to exchange again. Her meals were now nothing but leftovers. She couldn't live like this anymore. The boss refused to promote her because her show had high risks. Desperate to prove herself, she planned to host a grand New Year's Eve party. Meanwhile, Sue became reckless. He enjoyed success and fame, taking nutritional supplements obsessively. But the effects began to show. His wounds wouldn't heal, his body was changing. Elisabeth woke up one day to find her legs dry and frail. Her entire body had changed. She hesitated but was too deep into her obsession with beauty. She had already gone too far. Sue, on the other hand, realized his once glamorous face had turned into something unrecognizable. He decided to extract nutrients from himself. He prepared enough to last for months. Months later, as the New Year's Eve party approached, he took out the stabilizer and opened the door. The floor was covered with tubes and equipment. But this time, he didn't extract the nutrients. Instead, he called the manufacturer for help. The manufacturer told him the harsh truth. His body had dried out. The only way to survive was to exchange again. If he resealed the nutrients, he could continue enjoying the experience. Without nutrients, Sue collapsed. He stumbled into the secret room. But this time, he had changed into something monstrous. "Are you sure?" a voice asked. "Once you stop, you can't go back." "I want to stop." He quickly grabbed the lunchbox, wrapped it tightly, and rushed to storage room 503 with medicine. Finally, he began the process of transferring the nutrients back into his body. But halfway through, he hesitated again. The New Year's Eve party was tonight. He tried an emergency treatment, but it failed. Panicked, he returned to the storage room, looking for another way. One end of the tube was in his hand, and the other he stabbed directly into Sue's chest. Finally, blood began to circulate again. When Sue woke up, she saw what had been done. She was in shock. "I'm hungry." Instead of killing the character, Sue went to the dressing room. Tonight, she would be the most beautiful woman. But deep inside, she felt something wasn't right. She rushed to the bathroom, and suddenly, a tooth fell out. Then another. And another. At the most critical moment, her body began failing. She ran home in panic, but on her way, she encountered the group. "Okay, smile." She was so obsessed with her looks that even if she lost a single hair, she had to style it first. Finally, she put on a mask and went to the New Year's Eve party. But this time, something changed. Her mask suddenly fell off. Under the bright lights, her entire body and face were exposed, with nothing to hide behind. The audience gasped. Even a girl in the crowd, who had a heart condition, was struck with shock. Then, a bold man rushed onto the stage and slashed her in half. But even then it wasn't over. Blood poured everywhere. The entire New Year's Eve celebration turned into a scene of horror. In the end, she consumed the audience, turning them into nothing but scattered remnants of cloth and flesh.